Hello and welcome to Two Asian Blokes, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture. We're talking movies, TV shows, cartoons, comics, video games, music, whatever we feel like, really. If we could link it to Asia, we'll talk about it. My name is Dan with a H, and with me is my co-host Tavi.
G'day. What's up, everyone? So, I got myself a Guinness. What are you drinking?
On brand. I got an Asahi.
Asahi. You're trying to hear?
I'm on brand, Tavi. Come on.
You're the more Asia vibes than me, man.
Get on it. Get some sake.
What would you say is like the most Asian drink?
Bubble tea?
Yeah.
Like, as much as it pains me to say, probably bubble tea, right?
Yeah, I think just by saying that, we've already alienated our target audience. So
no way.
Let's
People love bubble tea. I mean, what's not to love?
I love bubble tea. I have chai time. I have a
gong cha.
Gong cha.
Share tea.
And hot star chicken.
I don't think they make bubble tea though.
But they're always together. Like,
yeah,
are they these days? Like, when we used to walk past in the city, there's always a fucking hot star chicken next door, and it's just like, I mean, it's a pretty good business model.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? They have a symbiotic relationship. The chicken makes you thirsty, so you drink the tea.
You chuck on a lot of salt, and then something sweet. That's it, man.
Vertical integration.
Yes.
Anyway,
I'm gonna drink my Guinness.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Cowboy Bebop is gonna be the topic of today.
Yes, we're going to be talking about Cowboy Bebop, the anime series, news about the live-action Netflix show, and then we're going to talk about some other anime to live-action adaptations.
I think we have a bunch of notes, and yes, I do edit these podcasts, so I can make Dan look like a dickhead if I want to, and make me a saint. That's the goal.
If you want the real the way of things, I guess. Anyway, Cowboy Bebop, a much beloved anime from the 90s, is getting a Netflix live action series. Release date November 19th. Helmed by Andre Nemec. 10 episodes altogether.
Cowboy Bebop needs no introduction, but for anyone who doesn't know what Cowboy Bebop is, it's kind of like
it's an anime,
like a space western. It's an anime space western. Yep. I guess the creator Shinichiro Watanabe. It was one of his first animes, and it's known for his like a mix of genres, and it's just about a bunch of space bounty hunters and their adventures and their own stories. I was actually pretty late to jump onto the Cowboy Bebop bandwagon. I think I watched it like after I'd finished high school, and I got into it through, or my first kind of taste of it really was Samurai Champloo. I remember fondly during work experience sitting on the Madman website and just rewatching the trailer for Samurai Champloo, and I was like, "Damn, man, I want to watch this shit."
It's a good one as well.
Yeah, and then I bought all the DVDs like as they came out, and it's that stands as my favorite anime. You see a lot of the mixture of genres and really cool soundtrack. Like that's basically, Cowboy Bebop was the antecedents of Samurai Champloo. Yeah,
just as a note, as we're talking, we probably will be spoiling a little bit of the Cowboy Bebop anime, this 23-year-old anime. So if you haven't watched it yet, you should, because it's good. Well, maybe before we start talking about the anime, maybe we should talk a little bit about the upcoming Netflix series, because there is a little bit of controversy attached to it at the time of recording, mostly because of casting. I think, and a little bit because of costuming.
And a little bit because it's a remake of
Yes,
Cowboy Bebop.
Probably mostly because it is a remake of a much beloved classic. But yeah, what do you think about it? John Cho as Spike, Daniela Pineda as Faye, Mustafa Shakir as Jet. I guess most people, or the majority of complaints are coming because, you know, John Cho is too old. Daniela Pineda doesn't look like Faye, and her costume doesn't look like Faye. Do you think there are any grounds to these complaints? Do you want to address this topic that is a minefield for getting ripped apart in the comments? Do you want to weigh in, Tavi?
Yeah, sure, why not? I'm going to get, I always talk about getting cancelled someday, so fuck it.
Yeah, might as well.
I think I do agree with some of the controversies. I think John Cho just looks strange. It looks like, because they got the costuming, it looks like Spike. But
he's got the hair. He's got the hair.
He's got the hair and it's got the suit. But it just kind of looks like cosplay. It's just like, oh yeah, hi, I'm John Cho and I'm cosplaying as
Do you think
Spike.
that's a costuming error though, or is the costuming too much like the anime?
People really like the costuming for Spike.
I think it works.
That's the thing. That's also the thing about Faye's costume. The controversy behind that is kind of like desexualizing her, and I honestly didn't mind her costume change because sometimes when things look too much like the anime, it kind of it looks a bit cheap, I suppose.
Right.
I think it's what I had issues. It's what I have issues with. Even let's say for Disney movies, Disney live-action remakes. A lot of my issues, amongst many other issues with those movies, is the costuming looks a bit cheap. So I guess there is a line between trying to do something different, but also keeping in line a new design. And a series that does this really well actually is the Marvel movies, I think.
For sure.
The costumes look very different, but they still retain that look.
I think it's spot on. I think because there are just some things that you can do in anime that you can't do in live action, and a lot of it has to do with coloring, I think. If they were to give Faye her original costume, that bright yellow booty shorts and bright red top, it would look a bit silly and a little bit too cartoonish. And I know a lot of people are saying cosplayers have done it in the past and it's looked pretty good, but they have to think about utility as well and functionality. There's a big difference between posing for photos and doing a TV show. And I think Daniela Pineda spoke out fairly sarcastically about this as well when she said, she tried doing the stunts in the original costume, but they kept getting sucked into crevices, which... of course it would happen if they did try to do the original Faye costume. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The Marvel movies, they do a really good job of reimagining the costumes in such a way that it's plausible in real life. It doesn't look that silly. And again, there is a fine line to tread because with the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, they've just got that kind of black leather uniform, and that sucks because there's no semblance to any of the original costuming. But yeah, the Marvel, the MCU movies, I should say, they have they very easily recognizable as the comic book costumes, but at the same time, it's not unusual. It's not jarring to see them in a real world setting. And I think the Cowboy Bebop, from what I've seen, it looks good. I think it treads that line pretty well.
I think my biggest concern is just the idea of remaking Cowboy Bebop, because Cowboy Bebop when you watch it, it really is the brainchild of Shinichiro Watanabe. Like, you can see that he wears his influences on his sleeve. You know, you'll see...
There's a lot of nods, a lot of homages.
There's obviously, you know, the John Woo nods. There's a lot of heroic bloodshed. But then there's, like, you know, Bruce Lee nods, like the dude that he fights at the end of Game of Death. That comes in the third episode. But there's just so many interesting little Easter eggs. You know, there's like the Alien episode. He obviously likes, you know, French New Wave with one of the episodes named Pierrot Le Fou.
Oh, yeah, it's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, I was going to say that is probably my favorite episode.
But there's no reason they wouldn't be able to do that, any of that stuff in a live action series.
I think what makes Cowboy Bebop really good is that it is an anime, and I mean this in a sense of, like, a lot of its lightheartedness and its kind of philosophical meanderings at times, and just its humor. There were just some things that it just does so well as an anime, and when it came out it would have been 2001 in the West. It was like on Cartoon Network. It would have been like on Adult Swim. But for us, I think we got it a little bit earlier, actually, because I remember watching it on TV on SBS.
It was on SBS,
yeah,
right, at some point. Well, let's talk about the Cowboy Bebop anime.
Yeah.
So you first saw it on TV after having watched Samurai Champloo, or is that before?
No, I saw it through streaming. I think I watched it on Crunchyroll.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it back then. Like, you know, I was probably at the peak of my Hong Kong action movie phase when I think I was kind of rediscovering them back then. But what are your thoughts on the anime?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people give it credit for kind of bringing anime to the West, and I think there's a lot of truth in that. It wasn't the first anime I saw either, but it was the first anime that I watched where I thought, oh, okay, this is what this media can do. Like, this, an anime can be deep and entertaining.
Yeah.
Whereas, before that, I'd been watching things like Full Metal Alchemist, and Naruto, I guess, where it does have kind of like deep moments, but it wasn't like, it didn't have that kind of philosophical tone and the same like slow pacing, I guess, as Cowboy Bebop. And the music is so much jazz.
Yeah.
It's great, right? And I think I was the same as you. Initially, I was drawn to it because of those that John Woo era Hong Kong style, where it's just jazz and smoke and two guns diving through a dive bar shooting people.
And homoeroticness between like the leads, you know, when you got like Chow Yun-fat like cradling like Tony Leung when he's dying.
And all that doves, all the doves.
But yeah, you mentioned the soundtrack, and that's the one of the things that does give me hope for the live action is Yoko Kanno. They brought Yoko Kanno back, who did the original
music
soundtrack.
Director.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I'm still very skeptical on the like. Yeah, I read a couple of articles, or skimmed through them, and like, I think Andre Nemec just seems like, I mean, whether he likes the show or not, I don't know, because I don't personally know him, but just the way he kind of talks about like changing things, he's obviously gonna like talk it up, like, we did like the research into you know, Shinichiro Watanabe's original influences.
And he's getting notes from Shinichiro as well.
But that's
whether those notes are...
that's basically it. Like, he's got notes from him, but you know, Shinichiro's basically said in an interview, or kind of inferred that, look, man, I gave them notes, but whatever they do is out of my hands. So basically,
Yeah, he's kind of wiped his hands clean of it, right?
Like if it's shit, it's not my fault. So
yeah, that's not a good sign.
when Andre was like talking, oh yeah, we looked into, you know, like, oh yeah, his influences on Richard Donner and Clint Eastwood movies and westerns and stuff. Like he was specifically naming like only American films, but there's so much that's in like for example, Faye is based off Faye Wong from the Wong Kar-wai movies back in the day, like from Chungking Express. He really liked her character, and that's where the basis for Faye came from. So she's like this kind of really cool, fatale. Yeah, this really cool character. There's just like all these kind of odd surrealness to the show. And yeah, like I don't know. I feel like he's just read some notes and like, oh yeah, it looks like we've done our research. But you know, they kind of, oh yeah, we're gonna change Spike into a more mature character. I'm like, don't
like casting 45-year-old John Cho.
But like, that's the thing. Like, don't change the character. You can change characterizations, sure, but don't change the character. That's what the big draw to Cowboy Bebop is, the characters. Like, you like watching them interact with each other. You like that kind of odd tension, and you like the contrasting like immaturity, like because they're always like battling each other and sometimes almost killing each other in aspects of the show. And then it's like, oh yeah, you know, we're gonna try to modernize it and stuff, and like, don't do that, please. Don't. I don't need any more socio-economic, social political themes in my show. Like, you can show them, and I think what Cowboy Bebop does is it has them, but it's not a focus. You know, it's like a lot of the motivations from characters are like, you know, long lost loves and stuff, and that's just cool. It's very noir.
It's either chasing a long lost love or it's trying to get money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you have a point there. It's one thing to get the look of the series down, but it's another thing entirely to get the tone. And I think that's probably going to be the most challenging thing about translating it to live action, is to get that tone, especially in only 10 episodes, whereas the anime was like 26 episodes. And the 26 episodes kind of gave them time to have a bit of quiet between like the... like it's this anime series is, a lot of it is, you know, poignant, introspective philosophy about, you know, the past and people's attachment to it and loneliness and all that. But a lot of it is just madcap farcical antics. You know, just one episode where they're just like, you know, chasing a dog through the streets. Like, and that's a really important aspect of the show, I think. And it's a lot of the reason why fans love it. It's because they have this kind of delicate balance of, you know, an ongoing story or a few ongoing stories about the main character's pasts, where, you know, the toad is quite forlorn and full of longing, but it's counterbalanced by just a lot of fun in between. And I worry that maybe the TV show will just forget about all the fun stuff and just focus a bit too much on the other stuff.
You can never really adapt something straight up. Like, you want to see something new. And I mean, the original is perfect. Like, viewing, just watch it. Like, it's fucking awesome. But if you were going to try to remake it, you know, yeah, sure, you can try to flesh out a bit more of the characters. And you can maybe, like, you know, focus a bit more, like, between the rivalry between, like, Vicious and Spike. And even, I guess, and we said this the other day, like, Ed's a great character, but also not really in it that much. But even then, like the episode where Ed leaves, man, I was like, oh fucking hell, like this is sad because it's just like it's because Ed and Iron leave, and it's like because he's kind of just sprinkled into the show here and there, but then when he's gone, it's like damn, like it's still
no, I remember Ed being a lot more annoying than I found her upon revisiting the anime. Like watching it most recently, I was like, oh, they don't actually use her that much. Like, but yeah, I think she's a fan favorite. I think she's not my favorite character, but she's definitely a fan favorite. I wouldn't mind personally if she wasn't in the show, like the live action show. And I feel like she's a character that's really hard to translate to the Western audience.
I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to translate Ed. Because like Ed is kind of like it's kind of like Gumby, like the way she moves, like slinking around, and she's very much a cartoon.
And not just the way she moves as well, but the way she talks. It's all like in rhymes and kind of riddles, nonsensical things that she says. Yeah. But they're kind of nonsensical, but at the same time, they do have relevance to whatever's happening in the story. And yeah, like her arc is quite short or like not covered that much, but it does have tie into all of the themes of like chasing your past and things, because she looks up for her dad, I think, at the end. Right? Yeah.
It's
she takes Ayn with her. Yeah.
I think the strength of the show, which I don't think that they'll be able to do in the live action because it's only 10 episodes, is the surprising emotional connection you have with the side characters that they come across, like, Rocco trying to save money for his sister's operation. And then it's like, and the way that they use their stories to enhance, like you see the true characters of Spike, like he gives money to help the people. Like he presents himself as this kind of like dude who doesn't really give a shit about much. But he's like a pretty stand-up guy, man.
I mean, sometimes he is, but there's one bit, I think it's in like the second last episode of the series. So it's like after all of this character development's happened, Jet and Spike are sitting in a bar having a drink together. Ed has left them, so they're kind of like a little bit sad. And then goons surround the bar, and they can't, like Spike and Jet kind of do that sideways glance to show that they know that the goons are there, but they don't tell the bartender, who's like standing in front of them, and the bartender they dive out of the way, but the bartender just gets ripped to shreds under a hail of gunfire.
I do remember that.
And then Spike like dives over the bar to take cover. He pulls the martini shaker out of the dead bartender's fingers, takes a sip, and says, "Ugh, too much vermouth." And I'm like, what? This is the guy that we're rooting for. He's a hero, yeah? Guy.
Nah, man. Spike, he's already dead, man. Like, he can be critical of the dead, so it's not like,
I guess. This was the last act on the planet. He's making this martini for them or whatever. And it's got too much vermouth in it, which I guess is a rookie mistake. So he deserved to die, that bartender, I guess.
He didn't do his job properly.
No.
So, do you think the adaptation will be successful?
Look, I am skeptical, but I do have a little bit of hope. I hold out hope for a couple of reasons. One is Yoko Kanno, which you mentioned. Another is Netflix has a pretty good track record when it comes to series, like TV series. If it was a movie, I'd be really worried. But maybe as a TV series, it might work. And I like the people attached as well. Like, I really like John Cho and Daniela Pineda. And I've only seen Mustafa Shakir in Luke Cage, I think.
Oh, yeah, he's Luke Cage, yeah.
He's good in that. And, yeah, it looks like the stills that I've seen look okay. So if they nail the music, I think that's half the battle. But, yeah, what do you think?
I am not a fan of adaptations or remakes. I prefer to just have the original exist as, a story for people to enjoy, and so many people already enjoy it. We don't really need another American remake, and it's just like, I just like a lot of the Japanese sensibilities that are in the anime,
So you think it would be better to just leave it as it is?
Yeah. I'll still watch the show. We'll see how
I'll give it.
We'll see how one
I'll give it
episode
the first
goes.
episode. Yeah. Apparently, the first episode, which is named Session 1, is supposed to be like pretty much go the same way as the first episode of the anime. And I think the first episode of the anime is really good in that it just does a really good job of showing us the world that they live in, introducing the characters of Spike and Jet, and also introducing the tone, because it is like that one episode has a good balance of humor and just sadness, I guess. Because
it sets the tone of the show really well. Like, what you're going to get into.
Yeah. Let's talk about live-action adaptations. So we're going to talk about a few of these. These are specifically anime that have been adapted, or Japanese anime that have been adapted into a live-action either movie or TV show. So Tavi, what's your favorite live-action adaptation, and why is it Dragon Ball Evolution?
Oh, I love Justin Chatwin. And
he's good in it, man. Him and his big forehead vein.
We have a list here, and I haven't seen any of these except for the Attack on Titan remake, which was not very good. I don't remember very much from that movie. And the Kenshin movies, which are probably my favorite live-action adaptation.
So you've seen the two Japanese properties that we've got on our short list.
I haven't seen the original. I haven't seen the Kenshin anime except the OVAs that came out that follow the Tomoe arc. But Kenshin does the stuff that I was like kind of criticizing before. Like, a lot of the characters you see, they're just straight up from the anime. One of the guys in one of the later Kenshin movies, he's got like motherfucking blonde hair, man. In like,
is that the guy with the little sunglasses?
Yeah, man. Like, where's this dude in like? But I guess they kind of went so far into it, and like a lot of it's still very anime, but. It just works. I think it's just the care. Like, I don't know. Like, for me, they worked really well. Like, the action scenes are cool. And the villains in the original trilogy from Kyoto Inferno and is it like The Legend Ends? Like, he is so fucking deliciously evil that it's just awesome. Like, he's like he's just surviving on how evil he is, and it's fucking awesome. Like,
I like the villain in the first movie as well. He's got a bowl cut. He's got little glasses, and he's just really hamming it up. I love it. And Japan kind of gets a pass, I think, when it comes to making movies that just look like an anime. I think, it doesn't really play in the West, but for some reason in Japanese films, it can still work.
I think that comes to the history of like the theater. What was it called?
You're talking about kabuki?
Yeah, that's it, kabuki. So there's a lot of that really exaggerated like look, and it works. Like, there's no because I love a good subtle villain, but there's no subtle villain in in the Kenshin movies, in the first three anyway. Like, this is a dude that you'll be like, if you see him on a subway, you're like, nah, man, I'm getting the next train. Like, he's so fucking evil. Like, it's just funny. Like, it seems like the way he walks and he talks, he struggles just because he's just that evil that it's just like this causes this barrier, this mono-neurosis of evilness that he can't like function properly, but it like just gives him powers. Like this motherfucker gets like stabbed multiple times and burnt to death, but it just because he's evil, it's like, yeah, man, like I'm just gonna come back and fuck everyone up. It's like
it's pretty melodramatic stuff.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I mean, they seem to be pretty popular. The final movie has gotten an 86% on Rotten Tomato. And I think, are they still up on Netflix if people want to watch them?
Yeah, I think they'll be there for a while. It's a shame that the original trilogy is not on there, because I have been recommending it to a few of my friends. And because of the way that they've named the movies, it's kind of
confusing.
It's like, oh, this one is called The End, but it's the first one, and then it's The Beginning. And then it's like, which might be a criticism that I have of the show, because like it kind of works in a narrative sense when you see where he came from in the prequel, but they show too much of that in the one before. So the Legend Begins, which is part 2, is like spoiled a bit because you see like the death of Tomoe and in the first movie, whereas if they didn't show it, like it would hit harder.
Right. Like I want to watch the movies, but yeah, I feel like I've already seen the last one because I watched the second last one, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, you gotta watch them, man. Like they're so the fight scenes are so over the top. Like there's a burly brawl with like him fighting an army, and then like his friends come, and it's like you see the dudes that he's fought in the original 3, and then he fights, and then they team up, and it's like that classic, moment where
I've seen the bit where he teams up with like that speedy guy.
That's it. Yeah, the hopping dude, which I don't remember, but it's cool. And then the last fight scene is it's one of the better ones I've seen in recent memory.
Yeah, they do the action really well in the movie. Yeah. Is the action different to the anime? Like
the anime, I haven't seen the anime, so
I mean, like from the things that you have seen, like the swordplay, how? Because I imagine like the live action swordplay, it looks a lot different. To the animated stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Like the anime is more based on like what sword fights were trying to be like during those times. It's kind of quick and like efficient. Like it's a few moves and someone's dead. But the live action movies, they're definitely, there's definitely a stylish flourish to them. There's like choreographed. They're a lot longer.
He jumps around a lot.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he does.
That's not in the animated stuff.
No, it's not. Sure. It's not. So they take some liberties with that, and that's the cool thing. Like you see, like all this like action, and the actors. Like I've seen the behind the scenes, and they're the ones that are doing it, man. And what I think is really, especially in the last fight scene in the part 1. The beginning, the end, or it's confusing.
whatever it is.
Like there's basically there's no song, there's no like, it's just Foley. It's all Foley, and it's cool. Like I really like dug it. Like I watched it fucking like 10:30 or 11 p.m. I had like a beer and popcorn, and I was like, oh man, this is so much fun. Like. It has all the themes and stuff, about like, choosing life over death, like not giving up. It's fairly classic shonen themes, but it's still good. But it was just fun. Like it was just awesome to watch. I'm like, man, I miss this kind of action, because we don't
see. That's the thing. I don't remember the OVA being particularly fun.
It's not fun.
it's quite really sad, right?
It's really sad.
From what I remember. I think it was a good idea for them to inject a bit more action and fun into it. It does have its sad parts as well, the movies, I mean. So that's an example of a movie that's kind of gone for the anime vibe still. Let's contrast that with a movie that kind of departs a bit more from the anime. Talking about the Death Note movie, the Western adaptations, the Netflix adaptation. I know there's like a bunch of Japanese live action movies based on this anime as well, but I haven't seen them. I've seen like maybe two of them. There's too many, man.
I watched the Japanese one a long time ago.
From what I remember, it's a fairly shot by shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they stick to the source material fairly closely in terms of the look and the story. But I wanted to talk about the Netflix one because it is a bit of a departure, and
Have you seen it?
I did watch it for this podcast. I wouldn't have watched it otherwise.
Oh, really? I didn't waste my time.
That's okay.
Sorry, guys.
You don't need to be honest.
I didn't want to watch it.
Well, it wasn't very well received. And rightly so, I'd say. Like, it's got a decent cast and a decent director with horror roots. And like the source material, for those that don't know, it's about a guy that is given a mysterious notebook in which he writes a name in it. That person will die. There are a bunch of other rules that they attach to this kind of thing, but basically he uses this notebook to kind of institute his own brand of justice on the people that he thinks the world would be better off without, which it's ludicrous, but I think it could work in a live action sense, like just depending on the way that the story is framed. I think the Netflix movie it makes a few changes to the source material. I think they've tried to make the character of Light a bit more realistic.
More
like Light,
more mature, yeah. More
no, less mature, I would say. Because in the anime as well, he's a high school kid, yeah. But in the anime, he's a slick high school kid who is a genius, who is also a sociopath, but is good enough of a sociopath to hide it really well. So he's popular as well. He's the A student. His dad's a cop. They don't have like that close a relationship, but that's not unusual for a Japanese household, I guess. But in the Netflix show, he's just a high school kid who gets bullied and is trying to like bang a cheerleader.
Man, dude,
it's not like I can understand the reflex to try to make him a bit more relatable.
Mom,
but
where's my goddamn spaghetti?
Basically that guy. Like, it's so funny. He gets the Death Note. He starts using it, and he's got it at school. And his love interest, who I don't think is necessarily a bad addition to the story, but anyway, his love interest kind of like sidles up to him. She's like, sees him with the book. She goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "I can't tell you." And she's kind of like, "Oh." And then he goes, "You really want to know?" She goes, "Yeah, I guess." And then he tells her instantly what it is and how it works.
Oh, man.
Yeah, his motivations are a bit mixed. They're like, part of him, is just horny, but a part of him wants to punish criminals. It's bizarre. And it kind of throws a spanner in the whole tone of the film going from there. I think fundamentally that's probably where it falls down, is the changes it makes, while understandable on paper, just don't really work when it's put to film. And like the performances for what they are, for what they're working with, are quite good. I think the guy that plays L is
Was that
good.
Lakeith Stanfield?
Yeah.
He won something recently, like
What, for Death Note?
For Death Note.
Did he win a Golden Raspberry for this 2017 film?
He won something pretty prestigious.
Good actor. And he plays L as kind of like an eccentric, he kind of like Abed from Community, I think. He's quite quirky but also intelligent. Which I think as that kind of character falls down towards the third act as well, because he just starts panicking and it's not great. And Willem Dafoe is amazing as Ryuk.
That's the only positive thing about the show that I've heard is that Willem Dafoe casting. And I can see that too, like definitely. And that's such a shame. Like Willem Dafoe Ryuk, man, is like the CGI is pretty janky.
I think they use it pretty well for the most part, because he's kind of like in the background and off focus for a lot of it, and it's only when he is like in full focus where it looks kind of crap and cheap. But yeah, he's real sinister in it, in a maniacal Green Goblin-esque way. And in the post credits, they kind of have during the credits, I should say, they kind of have these outtake things. And like one of it is Willem Dafoe without the real CGI, and he's just got the dots on his face and he's like just smiling maniacally at the camera. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think
like Willem Dafoe.
I think we've got a lot to say. It seems like we've got a lot to say about live action adaptations, but we might leave it there for now. So maybe we can wrap it up here for now.
In that case, what do you think about live-action adaptations? Do you think they could work? Have they worked in the past? We've talked about like a couple of them, some good, some bad, but there are so many of them, and I'm sure there are good ones as well as bad ones. Yeah. So if you want to send us an email about it, you can find us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts about the Cowboy Bebop live-action adaptation as well. Do you think it'll be good?
Yeah,
Do you think it won't?
I can't wait for the eventual Kimi no Nawa live-action adaptation.
I mean, that's probably one that would work fairly well. Like those romantic animes, they're quite straightforward to adapt, I would think. But,
So that ends the partnership of Two Asian Blokes. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast.
Sorry, Tommy. I know you have strong feelings about that movie.
It's just don't remake it, please.
Just leave it alone, I guess.
Yeah, you could, but just don't. Please don't. Please don't make it about a guy that has the hots for a cheerleader and add modern terms and just
I disagree. I want to see that film.
Okay.
Make it happen, guys.
All right. See you later, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Take care of yourselves, okay, guys?
Yes.
Bye.